Hey everyone, so before we start, I was about 4 episodes into this series and I learned via Twitter that Joss Whedon is kind of an abusive asshole. So that's cool, not. And yeah, I feel like I should address it at the start of this video. I don't pay attention to like Hollywood drama or anything like that, or behind the scenes news about actors and all that kind of a thing, so I didn't realise that he was the one behind the whole Justice League Ray Fisher controversy. If I did, I might have second guessed watching Buffy and Angel, because I don't know how much stuff from like Amazon Prime and all four goes to him or whatever, but I mean, I'm already halfway through it, so I'm going to continue, but I'm going to do it with the mindset of Joss Whedon is an asshole, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, unfortunate, but interesting to view this series with that perspective of like, oh, so here's some more hypocritical ideals that he's toting in this episode. But yeah, the reason I'm watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all that in the first place is because, I mean, I'm watching it because it's something my sister watched when we were kids, and it's cool to go back and see something that's in the 90s. And unlike a book series by J.K. Rowling or something like that, there are so many people involved in the making of these shows of Buffy and Angel, and so many cast and crew and writers who aren't Joss Whedon, and there's reasons why it's still good to watch these episodes, I think. And just as long as we're going into it with the mindset that, yeah, Joss Whedon, not a great guy. If you want to learn more about that, Charisma Carpenter, who plays Cordelia in the shows, tweeted out about her experiences working with Joss Whedon, and it seems like some of the other cast have backed her up and said that this was all true and everything like that. So quick Google search should help you find that. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking up and knowing about before we continue to enjoy the show. But yeah, now that unpleasantness is out of the way, I'm going to hand it over to past Christian, who doesn't yet know about any of this, and he's going to tell you about episode 1 of Buffy. Hello and welcome to what you can probably already tell from the title and the thumbnail is a mess, because I didn't know until the very end of season 3 that, well, my sister popped up. She was like, hi, just so you know, there's some weird continuity stuff with Buffy and Angel. And I was like, right. And she was like, you kind of need to watch them both to get the full story. I was like, right, I've read comics, I'm no stranger to this, I've never seen that happen on TV. But I was like, okay, fine, what I'll probably do is I'll just watch all the way through Buffy, and then I'll watch all the way through Angel, and then I'll piece it together in separate thoughts on. But then I looked it up, I was like, well, I should probably look it up just in case. And no, apparently, according to this guide I'm reading, it's actually super important to watch them both side by side, because that's how they aired, and it wasn't necessarily thought ahead that, oh, people are going to be buying season 4 of Buffy on DVD and not Angel. So yeah, basically, I need to be watching both, so that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going off of a guide from josswhedon.blogspot.com. It's called the Watchers Viewing Council. And yeah, basically, so a lot of the time it's just watch episode 1 of season 4 of Buffy, then episode 1 of season 1 of Angel, but sometimes it'll be like, oh, watch these 2 episodes of Buffy and then these 2 episodes of Angel. So yeah, and I'm sure a lot of the time it's not like a constant crossing over, but this is just what they recommend as the best viewing thing, so that's what we're going to be doing. So I imagine we'll be watching roughly 6 episodes of Angel and Buffy, and that's going to be like, it's going to, instead of having 2 parts for season 4 and 1, it's going to be like 4 parts, so it's still going to be like a half an hour long video. I'm not going to go into like an hour's length or anything crazy like that, but it's probably just going to cover the first 6 episodes of both seasons, at least as far as the beginning of this goes. So yes, welcome to hell. I've had to think about how to do this for a little bit now. Plus, Angel isn't even on Amazon Prime, so I don't even know where I'm going to watch it. Apparently it's on all 4. I don't even know what all 4 is. Hopefully it's a free viewing service thing that's legal and all that fun stuff. So, but yeah, on to Buffy, episode 1, The Freshman. As Buffy adjusts to college life, she realizes that classmates are mysteriously disappearing. What a shocker. I absolutely adore this episode, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm glad I'm watching this series as like a 25-year-old adult instead of like probably the audience it's aimed towards, which is more young adult, because I related to Buffy a lot in this episode. It's about her having her first day of college and having to learn all the new places to go, what it's like you know, to be fair, I didn't have this bit, but what it's like living away from home, and just adjusting to her new life, and how friend dynamics are changing because there's new people involved, and everything like that. And suddenly Willow's the popular one, or at least she seems to have her head screwed on more than Buffy does. And I love it because there were some scenes which I could directly correlate to my first days at university. One of the opening scenes where I think it is the opening scene where it pans down and there's like throngs, that's a good word, isn't it, of students, and then it's just Buffy kind of like stood looking lost, not knowing anyone, looking a little bit awkward and embarrassed because she's not talking to anyone and she looks like a loner. I did that. That was me. I had that. There was a freshman week and I was like, I'm going to go to freshman week. I'm going to reinvent myself because obviously that's what people think when they go to uni. I'm going to become a social creature because spoilers, I'm not a social creature. And I was like, I'm going to go to the freshman thing and I'm going to meet people and it's going to be great. And I went there and I didn't know anyone and everyone was talking to each other and I just kind of stood around in a circle feeling very alone and embarrassed, and then I left. Not uni altogether, by the way. I didn't just give up and leave on the first day because of that. I left the event. I know this episode just captures the feeling of having to adjust to a new location and a new way of life so well that I was watching it and I was just going, man, thank God I don't have to do that anymore. Like, not university. University was fine, but like, I don't know, I'm not great about change these days, and the idea of having to go and learn all of that stuff about going to all of those places and how to interact with all of these people without looking like an idiot, I'm just glad that's behind me. I mean, you know, I could always get a new job or something like that, but I feel like that wouldn't be as tough to get a handle on as an entire new way of life as a college student, you know? And then, of course, because this is Buffy the Vampire Slayer and not Christian Goes to University, this also included vampires. Don't know why I felt the need to clarify that. No, I just mean the vampires that Buffy encounters are really cool because they kind of represent Buffy's own insecurities and unfamiliarity. Like the head honcho of the vampire group that she goes up against is this really bitchy girl who steals her stuff, and there's, as I can attest to having my account hacked like a week or two ago, I know it's not quite the same thing, but having stuff stolen from you makes you feel invaded, makes you feel small, makes you feel like you have no power. So I think Buffy's turn to like the powerless version of her we see halfway through the episode is very well done indeed and justified. Pedro Pascal, Oberyn Martell, the Mandalorian himself, has his very first acting debut in this episode, which I noticed because when you watch stuff on Amazon Prime, it has this little X-ray thing and it gives you little factoids about the episode as you're watching, which I think is actually a really cool feature that a lot of other streaming services should also incorporate when they can. But I don't tend to pay too much attention to it to immediately discredit my recommendation, just because I'm focused on the episode. But if I was re-watching a series, I would probably watch it with X-ray on and just watching all that. But yeah, Pedro Pascal, he's a little freshman. He's an innocent little freshman boy who gets munched and turned into a vampire, and then he's not so innocent, and then he's like, I'm Pedro Pascal and I'm here to eat you. And any self-respecting person would be like, well, go ahead, Pedro Pascal, you can eat me all you want, you're Pedro Pascal. But Buffy slew him. How rude. I thought it was cool how we see Xander in this episode, how he comes back from his essential tour of America. He got very far. Don't ask him about the stripping. And he has this really touching moment with Buffy where she's legitimately happy to see him, and I swear to God we have not seen this yet throughout the entire season. We haven't seen Buffy have a legitimate touching moment with Xander. She's happy to see him, and then he gives her a little pep talk and he's like, hey, listen, I mean, I think you're like my hero, and I think what would Buffy do in certain situations and all that kind of stuff. And she was ready to get back at him, and yeah, that was really cool. And I was like, wow, Xander actually feels like an important character. Is this a change in the writing of that character? Because I'm all for it. I feel like this is a version of Xander that I kind of remember from my childhood when I would catch my sister watching Buffy on video on VHS. Because, yeah, he seemed more sure of himself, slightly more sure of himself, like he's still a sarcastic bastard, he's still a comedic relief, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know, it just felt closer to the version of him that I recognise. Oh, and yes, I totally noticed that point in the episode where Buffy's visiting her mum, and on her way out of her house, the phone rings and she picks it up and there's no one on the other side, and it's a bit random and out of place. I'm assuming that's a crossover event. I am willing to bet that in the next episode, when I watch Angel episode 1, season 1, he's going to have a moment where he's feeling down, he's feeling alone, and he rings Buffy, doesn't say anything, he just wants to hear her voice. And then we get a moody emo scene with Angel like, I shouldn't talk to her. I've waffled on long enough, it's time to start watching a completely different television show. Angel, Episode 1, City of Angels. Angel relocates to Los Angeles, where he encounters a stranger who experiences visions of those in need, a down-and-out Cordelia, and a woman who lives in fear of a powerful vampire. So, the premise of this series is, what if Angel was Batman in LA? Am I getting that right? The Irish dude who shows up, who's half demon, and says, oh, I've been getting visions of things, he's like... Hi, I'm here to drive the plot forwards and give you a reason to have your own show. I mean, my impressions of the first episode, it was fine. It's obviously going to take a bit to get rolling and for me to be invested in this new setting and these new characters and all this kind of a thing. For now, though, it just feels really bleak. Like, I noticed this in Buffy Season 2 as well, where the start of Season 3, where Buffy moved away to a big city. The life that's painted of people who live in these big cities is so bleak and depressing, and I hope it's not entirely accurate. I thought it was interesting that Tina died. Angel did not save her, but then that is another arrow in his brooding quiver, so there you go. My theory about Angel calling Buffy and then hanging up, and then having a bit of a brood was, yeah, right on the money. The idea of a vampire who is also a businessman has been lightly touched upon before in Buffy, but I think they really took it to new heights here. He's kind of like this really weird, gross guy with pervy connotations, who's like, oh, I can make anything happen. And it's like, oh, what do I have to do in return? And it's like, and like, obviously it's to sacrifice your blood to him, but like, it's got gross undertones. My one big thing about this entire episode, and it's probably going to be a thing going forwards as well, is that vampires are supposed to burn in sunlight, and that's not something they've walked away from. That still happens. That's actually a thing that's happening in this episode. But boy, does Angel sure get about in a day a lot, and they don't explain how. And also, he walks past lots of open windows, or windows with open curtains, and sunlight kind of like shining through, and it's landing on his face and everything. And yet, he's just fine. He's just fine. Oh, one more thing. I'm watching these on All 4, and All 4 has it in like the original 4x3 kind of a thing, and a lower resolution, and it just looks bad. And I think obviously because this is season 1 of a spin-off show as well, the production quality is a little bit less too, so it's gonna be interesting bouncing between that and Buffy. But you know, I'll live. Buffy Episode 2, Living Conditions. Buffy finds herself at odds with her new roommate and is troubled by a series of disturbing dreams involving a soul-sucking demon. As someone who hasn't had to share a room with someone since I was like 11, this episode made me cringe a lot. I get that Buffy was being was more irritable because part of her soul was missing and therefore she had less patience and all of that kind of a thing, but I think if it were me, I would have as much patience as Buffy did when she was missing parts of her soul. It makes me happy that her and Willow are roommates now, though. I find it funny that Willow clearly had the worst situation of the two of them, but she never said a word about it in true Willow fashion. I was half expecting the demon at the end of the episode to turn to Buffy and say, sorry for all of the trouble, before leaving, because that would have been funny. Hey, get me to write Buffy. I'll write some Buffy, any day. There's not too much else to say about this episode, I don't think, besides the fact that it was a really good way of having a storyline about trying to fit in with your new life in college, with your college roommate, except it had the traditional Buffy spin of, but what if your roommate was actually a demon? And also I did like the twist of, even I thought it was just Buffy going a bit nuts about the toenail thing, but actually no, she was definitely onto something. Angel, Episode 2, Lonely Heart. While Angel tracks a demon that's using a nightclub to prey on lonely hearts, LAPD detective Kate Lockley begins to suspect Angel of committing the crimes. All 4 are continuing the tradition of spoiling the episode in the synopsis, I see, although I don't know who actually writes those synopses, if it's All 4 / Amazon Prime, whoever put the videos and the episodes up, or if it's just something that's kind of like delivered with the episodes when they go to whatever streaming services they go to. I don't actually know. That would be great though, wouldn't it? What if your entire job was to watch through a series and then be like, oh, in this episode this happens, and then you have to write that. Imagine getting paid for that. I doubt it's that simple though. Anyway, I continue to not like Angel's LA that much. It continues to be bleak and just full of, well, what this episode is all about. Lonely hearts, people just looking to make a connection. And one of them was a demon who was like, listen, I know I invade people's bodies, I know I leave them for dead, I know I, kill people after sleeping with them and all of that, but really, I'm just looking to make a connection myself. And isn't that what all good-hearted demons are out to do at the end of the day? I felt for the demon. No, I did not. I did not feel for the demon. This entire thing, similarly to the pervy vampire dude from episode 1, was used as a metaphor to talk about some very adult themes. This demon is an STD. It's a sexually transmitted demon. There's no getting around that. I'm starting to wonder if Angel is to Buffy the Vampire Slayer what Torchwood was to Doctor Who. Just, what if the previous show, but adult, explicitly, for no particular reason, although to be fair it's not explicit at this point, but you know what I mean, it's definitely dealing with more adult stuff. I just wish it wasn't so dark, and I mean, I guess that's a big ask for a series, a spin-off that focuses on the vampire character of the previous series, which has just moved away for very depressing reasons. But still, I mean, Angel cracks a joke every now and again. After the detective lady tells him to go to hell, he's like, been there, done that, and I'm like, yeah, he did. Light chuckle. That was me. Either way, we're currently in the phase of this show where it's just like, oh, every week a new thing happens. There's no overarching story yet, at least no one that isn't just about the characters themselves. I mean, you could argue that there's an overarching story in the half demon dude, and he's hiding that from Cordelia, who he fancies, but that's more of a subplot than an overarching story. So I think when we get to more of the actual meat of the show, of it having its own stories and seeing how it ties into Buffy at various points as well, that could make it more interesting. But for now, I definitely prefer Buffy. I mean, Angel's not a bad show at this point, but it's definitely like, well, back to Angel, where everything is bleak. Buffy Episode 3, The Harsh Light of Day. As Buffy has an affair with a handsome student, Spike searches for a ring that, according to legend, makes the wearer invincible. Spike's back, and this time he's looking for a ring that makes him all invincible in it, and he actually succeeds until, Buffy kicks his ass and takes it off him, as was inevitable. Also, when Harmony popped up on screen for the first time, I was like, wait a minute, didn't she get munched? And then when she went all, vampiric, I was like, aha, I knew it. I knew I saw her get munched. I think it's pretty cool how they handled that, and also I think it's pretty funny how she drives Spike a little bit insane, although it is a pretty horrible relationship that they're in. In fact, this episode goes out of its way to portray 3 different women in the show as having these 3 different bad relationships. Anya with Xander, where I would say he is being absent-mindedly cruel. Buffy with what's-his-face, handsome dude, who is being callously cruel, or kind of just like, well, yeah, I'd say callously cruel, sure. And then Harmony with Spike, who is just being straight up evil, as he is, as Spike does, not in a cool way. It's definitely an interesting one to watch, given that I've just learned about Joss Whedon's own abusiveness within the workplace, and how he's been treating the people he works with terribly. Like, I mean, I talked about it at the start of the video, but yeah, he's such a big hypocrite. Like, you don't know who specifically, I mean, I could go back and look in the credits, but I don't know who specifically wrote this episode. But if it was him, like, I don't understand how you can put those ideals out there and then just immediately turn around and be shitty like he is. I thought it was clever how they have clearly set up this ring as a plot device to make Angel easier to write, because they're going to go and give a ring to Angel now in LA, and I'm assuming I'm going to see that in the next Angel episode. So that's cool. I'm guessing that's going to be what helps him get around during the day and live a life that's not annoying to write around. That being said, I do wonder how that's going to work in the long run. If it's going to be something that stays with him throughout the entire series, or if he's going to be like, no, are you kidding me? I'm not accepting that. Or if it gets taken off him at some point, or, I don't know where they're going to go with this, basically, because while they're basically saying, hey, yeah, it'd be cool for Angel to wander around during the day, you then do have a protagonist in a series that's invincible, and that lowers the stakes quite dramatically. And yeah, I'm not so sure about that. That's going to be interesting to see. Although, when you think about it, retroactively speaking, you already he has this invincibility about him just by way of being the protagonist of a show that's named after him that ran for 5 seasons, so he's not going to die at any point, so maybe it's not as big of a deal as I think it is. Or not die permanently at any point. Sorry, I have seen Buffy, I do know that protagonists die, but then they do always pop back up. Angel, Episode 3, In the Dark. Angel, that sounds like a sex thing. Angel receives a visit from Oz, who delivers a gift from Buffy, a ring that makes the wearer invincible. However, little do they both know that Spike is following Oz, seeking the ring for himself. Sorry, I swallowed the word little and I couldn't finish with a straight face. Anyway, I think now that Spike has appeared across both Buffy and Angel, he is now like the glue, he's the catalyst, he's a contributing factor between the two shows. And all I'm saying is that it basically means that instead of calling this the Buffyverse, we should be calling this the Spikeverse, and it should be an umbrella term of like Spike the dastardly vampire gentleman or something like that. I think that's the way to go, honestly. If we're being real here, if we're being perfectly honest about our opinions, this was the first episode of Angel that I've actually enjoyed. This was a really good episode. I really liked it. I liked how it tied into Buffy. I'm concerned that I only liked it because of how it tied into Buffy, but I guess we'll see how that goes moving forwards. But I liked the way that the ring from the previous episode of Buffy propped up here and caused an entirely new episode's worth of plot to unfold. It felt like I was being rewarded for watching the two shows side by side, which I guess is what you're trying to achieve by pulling some awkward bullshit like this. Morbid as it initially sounds, I really liked the torture scenes. I feel like a lot of shows do torture scenes. I mean, I don't know, I don't have them all ranked up in my head to immediately go off of and talk about top tortures in shows ranked. No, I just think it was very real. It played well with the fact that Angel's a vampire and can therefore take more punishment, like actually being speared through, and having the shafts of sunlight burning specific parts of his skin was very well thought out. And again, it sounds morbid, but as a writer myself, I can attest to the fact that these are the things that you think of when you're writing about things, and you're like, is this too morbid? And you're like, no, it's character building, damn it. Did I get my point across there? I don't think I did. Listen, it's not weird. I really enjoyed the relationship that Spike had with the hired help of the torturer dude, the torturer vampire guy, because he's obviously, the torturer vampire is all about patience and slowly getting the truth out of him, and then you cut back to Spike, who's getting really impatient and is being tortured by Mozart himself, which I thought was a funny little gag to break up the... It wasn't done in like a really edgy, dark way, if you don't remember the episode, but given the way that Spike was introduced as being this really dangerous guy, now that we've seen his plans get foiled a few times in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it's kind of hard to see him as so threatening, so they've kind of played on that with his character. Obviously, the last time we saw him, they were playing on him being pathetic because Drusilla had just dumped him and all of that. But this time we're seeing him, and it's kind of like he can't be as menacing as he initially seemed to be, because of he's just not got it in him. He's not as, patient as a torturer needs to be, and all this kind of a thing. I've lingered on the torture scene too long, haven't I? I was concerned that the ring was being introduced in Buffy just for it to be an easy thing for them to write around in Angel, so that they wouldn't have to write about him going out in a day and everything without being like, oh, how did he get from here to there? But as we've established in episode 1 of this show, they don't give a shit about establishing that anyway. They're just like, he made it there somehow, don't ask too many questions. And I thought it was cool to have that scene at the end of the episode where he crushed the ring and was like, no, I shouldn't have this power, all this kind of thing. The reasoning he gave was cool, and also it gave extra kind of like dark brooding things for him to be dark brooding over. I cannot articulate, but you get what I'm saying anyway. Oh, and one last thing before we swap back to Sunnydale. That's a fun thing to say, swap back to Sunnydale. Anyway, I really like the theme tune for Angel. I'm in a weird mood tonight. Buffy, Episode 4, Fear Itself. On Halloween, Buffy and her friends find themselves trapped in a haunted frat house, complete with real-life bats, zombies, and a terrifying demon from beyond. This episode really highlighted how fun the relationship between Xander and Anya is. I thought maybe we could go out tonight for our anniversary. Our anniversary? It's been exactly a week since we copulated. Did you forget? And who can forget? What? That's your scary costume. Bunny's frightened me. The premise of this episode was interesting. It was almost like it couldn't decide whether it wanted to be a goofy episode or an extremely goofy episode. I mean, previously I've said you have two kinds of episodes, serious and goofy, but I mean, I don't think a haunted house episode was ever going to be that serious. That being said, it did lean into some of the spookier parts of the idea, and it definitely wasn't played for laughs the entire time. I thought it was cool how the house played on the fears of each individual person, so Buffy thought everyone was going to leave her. Willow thought nobody believed in her and that she wouldn't be able to practice her magic because she wasn't skilled enough. Oz thought he was turning into a werewolf with some severely enhanced werewolf effects, given what we've seen in the past. I'm glad they finally made that look a little bit better. And then, of course, you've got Xander, who can't be seen or heard by anyone because who listens to Xander? That being said, at the end, when they inadvertently finished the summoning of a fear demon and he's tiny, that was weird and absurd and quite funny. But then I thought about it some more and I thought, well, it's also kind of a metaphor, isn't it? Of like, it's basically the whole making a mountain out of a molehill metaphor of like, look, this is the source of your fear. Look how small it is. Look how you know, non-threatening or fearful it is. It's just, yeah. Then Buffy steps on him and we all felt slightly jealous. The episode ended kind of abruptly though. I get that it ended on the joke of like, oh, I should have translated that from Gaelic. It's exact size, like the picture of the demon. But again, I don't know. It was a weird ending. Like, I think this episode, for everything it tried to achieve, tonally it was all over the place.
Angel, Episode 4. I Fall to Pieces. One of Doyle's visions leads Cordelia and Angel to help a woman who's being stalked by a demonic neurologist who is quite literally falling apart.
Today's monster of the week. Gross doctor dude who can detach his hands and have them crawl all over people in their sleep. Ugh. Buffy's monsters are all, oh look, a monster, whereas Angel's monsters are all, oh, don't want to talk about that one again. Beyond that though, this episode also dealt with Cordelia and Doyle telling Angel that, hey, we need to be making some money here, so, hey, Angel's like, hey, I just saved your life and everything, could you pay me? I didn't do it for the money, and he's all awkward about it. Just makes me think, man, this show would have had all the events of the characters in the show, they would have had a much easier time with it if Patreon existed back in the day, wouldn't it? Like, hey, just for one low monthly fee, I'll save you from creepy, demonic bad guys. Flawless business idea right there, honestly. I'm just giving that one out to all of you for free. Can't help but notice that 3 out of the first 4 episodes have all been about protecting, I mean, they've been very damsel in distress focused, let's put it that way. I like the previous episode where it focused more on the monsters and Angel as a character and all that kind of a thing, but yeah, I think the thing I don't like about this show is how it's so much a pattern of, oh no, there's a creepy demon after a girl and Angel has to save her, and it's like, this episode went some ways of making it so that the girl was like, hey, no, I'm not going to be afraid of you, but still, it's getting a little tiresome. But hey, I'm watching a supernatural detective show from the late 90s, early noughties, so I don't know what I should have expected.
Buffy, Episode 5. Beer Bad. Xander finds employment as a bartender at a pub where some of Buffy's friends metamorphosize into terrifying Cro-Magnon creatures.
Hey, at least Xander didn't get pulled into the group of animalistic, impulse-driven creatures this time. That's an improvement over Season 1, Xander. So yeah, the show continues to be very on brand with its relaying college life or general teenager life to the occult and all of that kind of stuff. This time, obviously, it's a warlock which turned a whole bunch of students, beer-drinking students, into cavemen, because obviously when people drink beer, they become a bit like cavemen. Can you see the messaging here? I personally didn't get a lot out of this episode because I can't #relate. I don't really drink or anything like that, but I did enjoy some parts where Buffy was just kind of like draped over her chair, going spinny or whatever she was saying, and then she fell over. It was fun to watch. Hold the phone. I remember my sister doing that when we were kids as a joke, so I wonder if she got that from this episode. Are you watching? Let me know. Message me later. I like how this episode further explored Parker as a character and Willow going to tell him off, and then you're like, oh no, now Willow's falling for his chums, but then she does the old switcheroo of, you really thought that was going to work on me, you fucking idiot. And also I did enjoy watching Parker getting a big old bonk on the head at the end of the episode too. Very well deserved. Did the bartender not get told off for what he did? Did he face no repercussions? Did we just kind of forget about him? Is it ever going to be mentioned again? Probably not, but this is Buffy. Probably. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Yeah, I don't have a huge amount to say about this episode. It's just a fun, silly, goofy one to kind of fill in the season. On to the next.
Angel, Episode 5. Room with a View. Cordelia falls in love with a gorgeous apartment that turns out to be haunted by the ghostly spirit of an overprotective mother. Meanwhile, a demon comes to collect on Doyle's loans.
Oh, I mean, I guess this is what I asked for, right? I said I didn't want every episode to be just the same. Angel saves a damsel from distress against like a supernatural threat. That's not what this episode was. I mean, there were elements of that. Thinking about it, Cordelia kind of filled that role. But, I mean, why does this have to be tied into Buffy? This is the episode I think I realised. I don't like Angel. There's a reason why it took so long for me to watch the first 5 episodes of both shows. And yeah, this episode just didn't do it for me. I found myself looking at the player, wondering if it was getting close to the end. Rolling my eyes at the 3.5 minutes of advertisements that all 4 shoves at you, not because I wanted to know what happens next, but because it was elongating the pain. This is the last episode I'm covering in this video, so please, anyone, if you love Angel, let me know. Does it get better? Does it improve? I should probably articulate what it was about this episode that I didn't like. It was just all over the place. It didn't know what it wanted to do. At first I thought it was doing the typical episode where one of the characters goes to find a new apartment and then there's something wrong with the apartment and hilarity/drama ensues. But this episode seemed to want to do that and focus on Cordelia as a character and how she used to be this person and now she's, someone slightly different and she needs to ground herself and find out who she truly is and all this. Didn't deliver on that theme at all through, I don't want to say bad acting, but like the pacing was way off. There was no gravity attached to any situation. It just seemed like everyone was going through the motions, if you know what I mean. Something about this episode was just off. And then you've got Doyle and his whole thing with the loan sharks, which is a B plot which has absolutely nothing to do with the A plot. And it's supposed to be like, oh look, Doyle is kind of a mirror of Angel because he's also living in a kind of self-imposed exile and trying to help people to make amends for his past, except they didn't make it mysterious in any way. And Doyle's a fine character, but just this episode, man, it was rough. Oh, it was so rough. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I think this is the most negative reaction I've ever had to an episode. I don't know if it's just because I haven't seen an Angel episode in a few weeks, and I've just forgotten what the show is like, or if this one is legitimately worse than the others. But man, I hope maybe they tried to do too much with this episode. Maybe they should have focused on Cordelia's haunted place first, and then focused on Doyle's thing in a different episode. Because man, this oh god. Anyway, that's gonna about do it for this video. And you may be thinking, oh, that was the first 5 episodes. We're a quarter of a way through both season 4 of Angel, season 4 of Buffy and season 1 of Angel. This is gonna take a while, isn't it? I'm just gonna throw it out there. Yes, it's gonna take a while. I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm sorry, I'll try and increase my viewing pace or anything like that. I think we just need to accept that this is gonna take a while. There's moments when I get interested in the plot and I watch a bunch of episodes back to back, and then there's moments when I'm like, I can't be asked to watch another episode of this right now. I'm just gonna keep on rewatching Futurama or something. So yeah, I apologise if the pacing of these thoughts per episode videos is a little bit all over the place, but hey, that's just what we're dealing with. So thank you for watching and for your patience if you love these series and you are excited to hear me talk about them and I'm taking ages. Again, sorry, that's just the way it's gotta be, and I will see you in the next one.